All right, so it's date night. You're getting ready to hit up that baddie. You know, that one from Tinder, Hinge,
Grinder.
Whatever you're into.
They want to go to a fancy restaurant, but you may not have fancy restaurant money. You ain't gonna spend $250 on this person. You want to go to McDonald's, get him a McDouble, and keep it moving. I know you got a bottle of Hennessy laying around. That's why I'm gonna teach you how to make a beautiful steak à poivre. It's gonna be simple, elegant. Let's get into it. Here we go. Before we start cooking this beautiful steak à poivre, we have to make a stock for our sauce. We're going to start with 4 cups of low sodium beef stock. And then to that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, about 4 garlic cloves, a half of a sweet onion. We're going to add 1 carrot to this and then 1 rib of celery. This will be plenty of stock for your sauce. Go ahead and let this reduce for about 45 minutes to an hour until the vegetables are soft. Once your stock is reduced by half, go ahead and remove your vegetables, turn the heat to low, and keep it warm until you're ready to use it for your sauce. Now the first side we're going to make to go with our steak à poivre is some rosemary and garlic fingerling potatoes. Cut your potatoes lengthwise and set them in a bowl. We need about 1 tablespoon of rosemary for this. Go ahead and pick it off the stock, chop it nice and fine, and add it to your potatoes. Next you want to crush 2 or 3 garlic cloves and add it to your bowl. If you don't have a garlic crusher, go ahead and chop it as fine as you can like you see me doing here. Next, add a generous amount of olive oil and season that with salt and pepper to taste. Toss and mix your potatoes in the bowl. Put your potatoes on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and place in the oven set to 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes on one side. And then we're going to flip them and let them go for about another 15 to 20 minutes until golden brown on the other side. While our potatoes are roasting in the oven, we're going to work on cooking our broccolini. Wash and rinse your broccolini and then cut the stem about halfway down on a diagonal. Next, we're going to finely dice a half of a shallot. This is going to add a ton of flavor to our broccolini when we go to saute. We want to boil some water and then blanch our broccolini for about 2 to 3 minutes before we saute. In a small to medium pan, add 1 to 2 tablespoons of butter, let that melt, and then add your broccolini. Season with salt and pepper to taste, then add your diced shallots. Let your broccolini saute for a few minutes until they become tender. Now it's time to plate up our sides. I had this fancy looking platter, so I plated the broccolini and the fingerling potatoes on the same plate. Get creative with it. If you end up trying this recipe, send me a picture of the presentation you ended up going with. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for. What I have here is a Wagyu strip steak that I picked up at a local market. You can use filet mignon or a ribeye, whatever you like. We're going to keep our steak seasoning simple, especially because we're going to have a lot of flavor in our sauce. We're going to season both sides of the steak with kosher salt and fresh cracked pepper. Don't be afraid of the salt and pepper. This steak is quite thick and it can take all this seasoning, trust me. Once your steak is seasoned, let it come to room temperature for about 20 minutes before we sear it in a hot pan. In a fry pan, heat 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil to about 350 degrees. Let the steak sear for about 2 to 3 minutes aside, depending on the thickness. Make sure not to touch the steak until you're ready to flip it. Once the steak is seared and you have a beautiful Maillard reaction, flip the steak and sear for another 2 to 3 minutes on the other side. Once both sides are seared, turn the heat down and cook to 130-135 medium rare. If you want to cook a little more, to about 140-145 for medium. And if you want it cooked more than that, well, I just can't help you, brother. Set your steak on a plate and let it rest. Pour out the excess fat and get ready to make our sauce. Get your bottle of cognac, then deglaze your pan with about 1/4 cup. Now we're going to flambé it. Now this is optional. Please be careful. Don't burn your mother's house down. I don't want to hear anybody in my DMs saying they burned their house down. Have the fire extinguisher ready. Now let's get back to the cooking. So you're going to go ahead and flambé until all the alcohol is burned off, usually about a minute or 2. Once the flame goes away, you know you're good. Next, add 1 cup of your beef stock, then about 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Stir that in, and then add 1 tablespoon of green peppercorns without the brine. Let your sauce reduce by half, then season with salt to taste. Now this is very important. Right when you're ready to eat, turn your heat off and add 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter and let that melt slowly into your sauce. Now it's time to plate it up. Set your well-rested steak right in the middle of the plate. Cover the steak generously with that silky, buttery, cognac peppercorn sauce you just made. Pour yourself a nice glass of cognac or open up a nice bottle of red wine. Brace yourself and get ready to impress whoever you decide to make this for, because this is going to be the best steak you ever have in your life. So that was our steak à poivre. It was tender, it was juicy, cooked medium rare. Now if you want to cook a little more, go ahead, cook it to how you like it. If you go to a fancy restaurant now, you're gonna pay about 69 bucks for 8 ounces, so it's about $140 a pound. It's not including, wine or any drinks that you have, appetizers, any side dishes. That's a la carte now. They charge you more for the side dishes. You can easily spend $200, $250 going to a nice steak restaurant. Now here's the thing though, you don't have to use Wagyu beef. You can use select or prime grade beef. We ended up picking up that Wagyu at about $34.99 a pound. The beef's not even the star of the show, it's that sauce. Oh my God, that sauce is amazing. I'm gonna put it on everything. Chicken, beef, fish, pork, pasta, meatballs, whatever you want. Even if you don't make the steak, just make that sauce, put it on anything, man. It's that good, I'm telling you. It's not overly boozy, it's not overly peppery, it's just the right amount of flavor. It's very good. I highly recommend you try this at your next at-home date night. Whoever you make it for is gonna be very happy. Trust me on that. If you enjoyed this video, you learned something, give us a like. Until next time, be kind. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.